What's up, everybody? Coach Mills here, coming at you with a brand new Overwatch video. And in this video, I'm going to be breaking down 8 tips to dominate Season 27. I got a tip for you if you're hard stuck, dealing with throwers and smurfs, don't know what to do, whether or not to play meta or play what you're used to. So if you really want to dominate this season, smash the like and subscribe, and make sure you watch it to the end. And then go to the GameLeap website in the links down below for the highest quality advanced Overwatch guides that you'll find anywhere on the internet. In-depth advanced VODs, tips and tricks, character courses, and much, much more. Do yourself a favor, go check it out in the links down below. But without further ado, let's jump into the video. Now, you know, it's been 27 long seasons, and while most of you haven't been here for all of it, a lot of you have been here for quite a few seasons. Most of us have at this point, and I don't like this term a lot because I don't believe in this term, but a lot of people think that they are hard stuck or they're unable to rank out of whatever rank they're in. They've been there for many seasons and they don't know what they're doing wrong and they don't know how to rank out. A super huge problem with being stuck in a rank for a long time is you have no models to learn from. You see, one of the big ways that a lot of us learn what to do and how to do things correctly is by getting punished for said actions. Let's say you make a really over-aggressive play up against 3 enemy players, and by all accounts, you should get punished, right? But in a lot of different scenarios, you're not, and you ingrain that in your mind as a good play. Now, that's a really extreme example, but what happens to a lot of people when they're stuck at the same rank for a long period of time is they learn things that they think are correct, and they learn incorrect things that are keeping them down, and some things they know are actually correct and some things aren't. And basically, it's like being in a super toxic environment, like being in a school where no one is listening to the teacher, everyone's throwing around, and you're trying to freaking learn how to do calculus, right? Because you want to be a goddamn astronaut or something. I don't freaking know, man. I'm a college dropout. Don't ask me hard questions. But going back to something I do know, which is Overwatch, one of the big problems is you're just in a really toxic learning environment that is teaching you bad habits all the freaking time. And of course, it's extremely difficult to get past that if you're just stuck there all the damn time. And what you have to learn how to do is understand when you made a play that should not have worked on paper but did anyways. It is really important to separate yourself from what is working or not working in game versus what actually logically makes sense on paper. Now, basically what I'm telling you is instead of going with the grain of game sense that you were developing in your rank, challenge the things that you think you know in your rank. And if you think something is true and you try it and it doesn't work, ask yourself hard questions like, maybe if I would have played this better, it would have worked, or a better player would have pulled this off if they just did it a little bit differently. It wasn't that the plan was wrong, it's just that all these factors are different. Understanding that the proper way to play the game doesn't always reflect your games, but that doesn't mean you can just work against the system. Sometimes you gotta work with what you have to get that win, even if it doesn't necessarily equate to you playing the most perfect proper way. And being able to separate those two things is the first key to making it so you never get hard stuck in any game. Then we go to the next thing that you need to learn how to dominate in Season 27, throwers and smurfs. Everyone always talks about throwers and smurfs. First off, most of the throwers that you're going to be getting in your games are soft throwers or people that are just playing something that is vastly ineffective, like no one wants to go hit scan against the Pharah, or Defred has you on his Junkrat practice list in EU. Whatever the case may be, you got to understand that throwers statistically are just as likely to be on the enemy team as they are on your team. Actually, they're a little bit more likely to be on the enemy team because you yourself will never be that thrower, at least hopefully, and a lot of times you're gonna still win games where you perform very well even if someone is soft throwing. Now, of course, if someone is AFK and spawn and throwing around May walls to block in your team, yeah, you're probably not gonna win that game. But like I said, that is not a large percentage of the games, first off, and second off, just as likely to happen to your enemies, which means it should be about a wash, even if it feels a lot worse being on the receiving end of it than it is dishing it out. Now, if you understand that concept, then you understand Smurfs are the same way. Now, Smurfs, of course, you're gonna have a slightly less chance of getting a Smurf because you yourself are not a Smurf. Hopefully, you're playing on your main. So I think all in all, with slightly less chance of getting a thrower and slightly less chance of getting a smurf, but typically it's going to be 50-50. While some games might feel unfair, overall, if you play enough games, it will be fair and you're going to be the difference maker, and you just got to let that RNG play out a little bit instead of just taking one experience and applying it to every single experience you ever had. Now the next big question that a lot of people have is meta versus no meta. Should I play these meta characters? Is there a legitimate reason for me to swap? Or should I stick with no meta, what I've been playing this entire time that's got me to this rank, even though maybe it climbed me up to plat and I can't get out of plat anymore after 3 seasons? Should I keep staying with what I'm staying with, or should I maybe play something meta? Well, this is kind of a hard question because it really depends on a lot of different factors. Now, while I tell you that meta does not matter at the lower rank, you could basically play any character you want and climb all the way up to at least Masters and even Grandmaster if you play well enough with legitimately any character. It can be progressively harder on certain characters that are very, very bad, quote unquote, in the meta, or characters that don't really give you a lot of individual impact in order to shine in. Now, that being said, even more than that, some characters don't really develop you that much as a player, and maybe it's better for you to play some other characters. And of course, if you're ever in a rut, I often suggest people to switch up what they're playing, what they're maining, try something a little bit different for a while. As I also think that people that try multiple characters will get a better understanding or improve their game sense a lot more in Overwatch, even if eventually they settle on only 1 or 2. Sometimes you've like been playing, I don't know, your entire time playing Overwatch, and you're setting yourself up for failure because you have to play so above and beyond to get her to work when you start to reach some of the higher ranks, and you're really not improving a lot of your other skills that you could be on characters that would allow you to actually climb and see results and be more confident in your gameplay a lot sooner. Now, of course, once you start getting to the higher ranks like Masters and Grandmaster, I wouldn't fault you for either 1, playing meta, or 2, if you're not going to play meta, make sure that you have a plan for whatever you like to play up against the meta. The meta is called that because it's going to be the most played strategy, most effective tactics available, and you're going to be seeing whatever the meta characters are a lot, and if you don't have a game plan to go up against them, you're just setting yourself up for failure. But if you think of a good game plan and it works a good percentage of the time, and you can adapt that plan to make it work in a wide range of situations, then you can play whatever the hell you want and you could still dominate this season. The next big question that a lot of people have is, how do I carry from any role? Like, I'm a support, I'm a tank. Sometimes even DPS think that they can't carry, and people are like, how do I carry from my role? I feel like I have no impact. Well, a lot of times people feel this way because they play their role in a way that instead of going above and beyond and tries to force their impact on their opponents, they're just trying to make very little mistakes throughout the course of the match, but they are also making very little plays. Now, there is a certain amount of legitimate power in just making very few mistakes, and especially when you're talking about the pro scene, someone who makes almost no mistakes is like someone you want on your team always, because things are defined by mistakes, and if you're making so little of them that you can't even see or point them out, then you're just doing your job perfectly, right? However, that only works when every single cog is working together in like a fully functional super machine. But that's not what a ranked team is, right? What is a ranked team? It's like a cog that is rusted, a cog that is tiny, and just a cog that's turning in the wrong fucking direction. You know, that's what ranked is in the machine, and the machine is a pile of garbage, right? Well, in that environment, just being the passive part that does its job is not going to be enough to carry the garbage to victory. You often have to go above and beyond what you normally would. When you have a good team, and sometimes you will get them, believe it or not, you can resort to that passive role, and in a lot of ways, you just want to make sure that you're there for your team, that they can rely on you because they can do their job effectively. Like if you're a support and you have really good DPS and really good tanks, you don't want to go for crazy plays. You just want to enable them and remain consistent because they can rely on you and they can get the job done. But when you have trash tanks and trash DPS and you're in that supporting role, you have to go above and beyond. You have to be the Ana that gets picks on the Pharah. You have to be the Lucio that duels the Widow or boops enemies into your team and gets kills and makes plays and beats aggressively. You have to be the difference maker because otherwise you're just enabling something that is never going to work no matter how much enabling you give to it. And you got to learn when to pivot, and on the flip side, you got to understand that sometimes your team is good, and if you try to force this really impact-heavy style and your team can't rely on you, they're not going to be able to win even though they normally would if you would have just gave them support. So it's really important for you to understand this from actually every role and understand what the weaknesses and strengths and quickly identify them in your team and decide how to change your playstyle according to that to give you the best shot at winning. Now, let's quickly talk about the biggest mistakes that are holding you back. First off, medals. I talked about that before. Medals don't matter at all. I don't care if you have gold healing as an off support. I don't care if you have gold damage as a tank. Does not matter. Medals mean very little, and they often completely misconstrue the game state. When characters can get medals for actually playing incorrectly, and some characters could be playing perfectly good or perfectly correct and they're not getting medals. So a lot of times it's incentivizing the wrong playstyle and toxicity. So just ignore it altogether. The same thing can be said for stats. People love to flex their stats like, oh, I have X heals per 10 and they're in gold, when someone in Grandmaster has half their heals per 10, and there's clearly a disconnect there, right? Obviously, having more heals doesn't mean more rank. So why are we associating stats with rank? No freaking idea. The next thing is stagnation, no focus. Some people really start to autopilot in this game, especially after you've been playing it a long time, especially after you have a main that you always play. Instead of challenging themselves to try to take the hard shots, to try to hit the crazy play or make plays at all, they're autopiloting. They're doing the simple things. They're poking at the shield. They're doing the stagnation, the path of least resistance, and it's really preventing them from challenging themselves and pushing or stretching that muscle out of how or just how far you can go with your impact. And then the last big mistake that could be holding you back is no fundamental practice. Not practicing your sleep darts in training room, not practicing your wall running as Lucio, not practicing, I don't know, even your fire strikes as Ryan. I don't care. Practice the fundamentals of your character's abilities. There's always something to practice, whether it's an ultimate, whether it's the primary fire or an ability. Do yourself a favor and make sure that you are the best at whatever ability on your character we're talking about. And it's not going to be very hard to get there because, let me tell you a secret, not a lot of people freaking practice them. Now, the next big tip that I gotta give you that is guaranteed gonna let you win more games automatically, and it's just having positive communication. You're not backseat gaming. You're not doing any of that, telling people exactly what to do. You're giving clear, concise calls, talking about ultimates that two people have that can combo. Even if you're not involved in that equation, like you're a support, you can still say, hey, we have Grab Dragon. You can just mention that. You don't have to be passive aggressive, but you can let players know or think things on their mind that it's going to help them logically come to the right conclusion in any given team fight. And you can just be generally positive, saying nice play, hyping people up, making jokes, doing whatever you have to. This gets people in such a good damn mood because it's so infrequent in Overwatch. People just want to be freaking toxic, but I promise you that my win rate on teams where people are laughing and joking is probably like 85%. And a team that is automatically toxic, that game is like an insta loss, at least in my mind. I'm sure you definitely relate to that. So just try to keep up the communication, and maybe if you're too shy to talk or whatever the case may be, you could just put some funny joke in chat. I don't know, but I'm telling you, this is a tip that I guarantee is incredibly underrated. Now, the next thing that could be making you throw game after game, and it's tilting. This is extremely important for you to get a grasp on because a lot of players will keep playing tilted. If you know that you're tilted, if you know that you are not in a good mood, you should be stepping away from Overwatch or going to go play some other Overwatch related modes like Triad Free For All, like Gun Game, something that can keep you mechanically warm. So if you want to play after the fact, after you cool down a little bit, but you should not be playing while you're tilted. That's the easiest way to end up losing a game because of some unluck, a smurf, a thrower, but then the next game you're playing, you're tilted. And on paper, if you were playing at 100%, you would have won that game. But because you're tilted, you say some offhanded remarks, someone else gets tilted, they start playing bad, you're playing bad because you're tilted, and you just lose that game when really you should have won it. Now, the last thing, or the last little tidbit that I want to give you is really talking about the people that have used our service, watched our videos, and those people that made it to Grandmaster, because there are a lot of them. We get emails all the time of people that cancel their service or just DMing us, thanking us because they made it to Grandmaster or Top 500. 500. And here's the thing, here's the big difference that I see between players that give up and never improve and players that make it all the way to that Grandmaster rank. The biggest difference is something that is really hard for a lot of people, and it's called personal responsibility. It's stopping the blame game. Stop blaming the rank system. Stop blaming your teammates. Stop blaming Jeff Kaplan, and stop blaming the freaking meta. None of that crap matters, because I promise you, no matter how garbage the meta was, how garbage the rank system was, how garbage anything was, how unlucky someone was, every single person that has climbed from the lower ranks of Overwatch, which there are many, to the higher ranks of Overwatch had to go through this BS. I had to go through it myself, and every single person has to. It is like a rite of passage for any ranked game. Now, I know this is really hard to hear because it's really easy to just blame other things when you know that you could be the one that goes above and beyond and improves yourself. And even if everything's against you, you need to have the attitude that you're gonna win in spite of that. You're gonna get so goddamn good. It doesn't matter how many throwers, how many smurfs, you're gonna roll those smurfs, you're gonna carry those throwers. It doesn't even matter. And if you focus on improving yourself so much that all the other RNG factors don't even matter and just wash away, those are the people with that mentality that make it all the way to Grandmaster and top 500 and even beyond. And that's what you need to have. That's what you need to strive for every single day. And I know it's not easy, but here, the GameLeap community is here to help, and so am I. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Smash the like and subscribe if you learned something, and go to the GameLeap website in the links down below for tons of high quality in-depth guides, tips and tricks, VOD reviews. If you want to climb and you need some tools, because tools are going to help you climb all the way to Grandmaster, definitely go check out our website in the links down below. But thank you so much for coming by. Hope you enjoyed the video. That's all I got for you today. I love your faces. Send feet pics, and I'll see you tomorrow.